All right, guys. Noah, we'll get to your comment in 1 second. So
Yeah.
Trump canceled today, or not canceled, but postponed rather.
You're not
And
live.
yeah, I want to see what
Oh,
you
you.
guys think of when it's going to happen based off of what's been going on. So Noah, you were saying actually.
Yeah. I'm just was thinking based of his Truth Social posts and stuff. I was a little disappointed at first, but then after all of us, reading and digesting it and everything, I'm thinking it's going to be Thursday. And the only reason I'm saying that is because he's going to give the Qataris, the UAE, everyone another day to prepare to like get everything in place. I think that's what they're trying to do. And it's also been Trump's style in the past. Like he'll say, "Oh, I'm going to give you guys 2 weeks to negotiate and stuff," and then suddenly the next day he bombards. So that's why I'm saying that's why I'm saying Thursday, because he said we were going to start bombing tomorrow. So um,
Okay.
that's my date. I'm sticking to it. If I'm wrong, well, I'm not a betting man. So
Yeah. Pedro, what do you think?
So what I'm thinking, to be honest, is the following. Like, Trump is very good when it comes to doing strategies. Like, you remember, I think you guys remember that Trump stated to Iran that I'm gonna decide in 14 days if I'm gonna bomb the uranium sites or not. But and then on 2 days he bombed them. Like, Trump is extremely unpredictable when it comes to stating the exact date of the bombing. So the best way to see the strategy is basically to wait and see the surprise, because uh, uh, when Trump reveals when he's going to bomb the area, it's the regime gets prepared for the strike, so it's better to do it unexpectedly. So so it's better to wait to see when the surprise strike instead of to putting dates.
Yeah, I agree. He is pretty unpredictable, but it just sucks having to think that it's gonna happen and then boom, you hear, okay, well now you have to wait a little bit longer. And I'm like, oh man, can't we just, everyone wants them on, everyone. But I understand. We went through it on the earlier stream as to why we thought it might have happened. Like it could be a leak, you know, could be that they needed more time to prepare. Could be that the stock market's open. Who knows, right? Um, I'm as always, I'm super excited because after all of this is over, all the truth comes out in the future, and you're like, oh my god, that's what happened back then, and like I remember feeling like this. Um, yeah, you can respond to that, Pedro.
Yes, so what I want to know is that, so basically 4 days ago, like, what source did you got that Trump was going to speak at 9 p.m.? Because I heard that it was a woman who stated that Trump was going to speak at 9 p.m., and many sources started to debunk that, saying that no official sources, including the White House secretary, ever stated that Trump was going to speak at 9 p.m.
Yeah, so there was that pretty reputable source who's usually right, and me, including other people, thought that she was right. And so um, I was spending the whole day pretty much preparing for stream and then streaming, and then I took a nap right afterwards, and I woke up for what I thought was going to be Trump's speech, and then I was like, "Where is it?" And it never came. So, um, but yeah, you're right. I should be more careful with the sources, but I learned my lesson. Noah, did you want to respond?
uh Yeah, but then I got distracted real quick.
About the strikes being postponed, like how we're just like, come on, do
Well,
it already.
well, well, Trump jet. Well, I'm looking on Iran International, if it's okay, and it says Trump says strike delay could last 2 or 3 days or forever if Iran deal reach. And that kind of distracted me. But at the same time, we were literally just talking about, like, like, we think the strike, that this is just his mind game. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. You never tell the enemy when you're going to attack, um, because, and I think that's what Trump is doing. He's literally, him and everyone else is just basically saying like these things just to throw everyone off guard. And then when everyone either least expects it or he'll do it like in 2 days or something, then then the US will strike. So I mean, you never, but yeah, that was what I was going to say. You never tell an enemy when you're going to attack, generally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But in the same post, he actually said that we're postponing them, so they're still coming. And then he said,
yeah, they're still coming.
Yeah, and then he said, I told Pete Hegseth, which is the Secretary of War, to make this like, be on standby for these big, grand assault. So the regime definitely knows it's coming. But the fact that he said that today and said, oh, yes, we specifically were going to strike tomorrow, makes me think that there's something that we missed. Maybe it was a leak in Israeli media. Maybe the Interior Minister of Pakistan went to Iran to warn the regime that the strike was coming. Maybe there was a technical difficulty. Maybe they're waiting for something. Who knows? So, yeah.
Well, I don't trust the Pakistanis at all because they're a major ally of China, and they have been known to leak and stuff. So especially when, by the way, I am showing that you are streaming. I did see that. So even though you're not recording, it's showing that you're streaming. But I remember during the raid for bin Laden, one of the helicopters, they shared that information of the helicopter to China. So even though they're supposedly our ally, they've been historically close, very close to China. So I don't really trust anything the Pakistanis say, nor should anyone at this point. I'd rather trust India more than Pakistan. So.
Yeah, you know what the problem with Pakistan is that they're fragmented, and like not everyone is on board with the same thing. They have factions that do have their own agendas. So it's kind of hard. And also, yeah, Armin says this all the time, never trust any country when it comes to geopolitics. You can only trust what their interests are. And if they want the same thing that you do, then you can work with them. But based on just, good word and good faith, like it'll never work. You'll always be disappointed on that one. I wanted to see, Halda actually said that Fox News posted a video, so we might show that later. It's about 1:30 long. Did anyone else have any opinions on today's cancellation or even any feelings? Like I read it and my first feeling was just like there was like a half a second where my stomach was dropping, and then I was like, oh, okay. I remembered nothing's changed. The deals, the negotiations, the points, they're all still the same. No one's agreed to anything, and they won't. But yeah, it was just frustrating. I was like, come on, just please, just do it. Just do it.
Well, you and I are both Iranians, so even though like you're from Iran, I'm Iranian American, we both feel the same way. We both want this to happen. And yeah, I felt dejected at first, but once we got, I felt the same way for half a second as well. So you weren't the only one.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt the same. I'm like, please just go for it already.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, you guys in Israel, you're also going to have to get ready to go back to the shelters too when this happens.
Oh my
right
gosh,
now,
I forgot.
you're just in an anticipation for that to happen right now. So I understand. I think Pedro wanted to say something.
He did. He's been very patient.
Yes, I want to say something. I pretty much found out that it was.
Pedro, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I was looking at X Twitter, but I found it out that it was Mila Joy who stated that Trump's speech at 9 p.m. Do you do you trust Mila Joy or you don't trust her as a?
I mean, not anymore, but it could have been an honest mistake. I don't think it's not a big deal. It happened. We should probably just move on.
Move on. So next time, what sources should you trust? Should you only trust next time? After realizing that it was a hoax.
You guys should trust, including me, should trust what the White House says, President Trump, and other what we call direct sources, and not as much intermediaries, unless they have been right consistently. Which
Like Axios, or Axios is
No.
not reliable anymore. Axios.
I don't know if they were ever reliable. Like, of course, every news agency has some things that they report on that's accurate, but yeah, I think they've been wrong, or misleading is a better word for it.
The New York Times is the most evident one that has been wrong about the Iran war. Like
Yeah,
it said,
so a lot of these news agencies or editorials will also have their own agendas. Some of them are very anti-Trump, anti-US Israel. So, like the New York Times or CNN will tend to put out articles that make it seem like the United States is losing the war. And that's just quite, as a news agency, I don't know when happened, but instead of reporting the news, they start putting their own opinions into it and twisting things to make it seem like, a certain thing is happening. And that's why so many politicians nowadays hate the news, because they don't just report. In fact, they don't do any sort of journalism anymore, because if they were, you would see them traveling to the sites of conflict or zones of interest, and they would be directly gathering data firsthand and reporting just the facts. For example, Trey Yingst does that in Fox News. He's their chief correspondent in the Middle East, and he does a great job. And that's why he's gotten almost like 1 million followers in the past, couple of years. Samantha,
and Reuters.
for it. Reuters
Is Reuters good source?
Reuters is fairly good most of the time, I would say. I mean, all of these agencies have been wrong at some point. But you kind of have to, here's what you do. You read how opinionated the title of their article sounds. And if it's very opinionated, you just know. You know that they're biased. Samantha, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, like New York Times, I'm sure you saw the recent thing about the opinion piece claiming that the IDF are training dogs to like rape people, when it's like, so that story came out like 19 hours ahead of like a reporting that like used forensic evidence and stuff about like Hamas rapes on October 7th. And the New York Times was offered to publish the piece about like Hamas raping people on October 7th as like a weapon of war, and New York Times turned it down. But like they still followed up and knew like the date of when that piece was going to come out, so they published their opinion piece 19 hours ahead of time. So like, the total propaganda trying to like, basically silence what happened on October 7th with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Times is far from what I like about I think people should read biased sources just to like know what the other side is saying. Like knowledge is power, and knowing like what the other side thinks is very important. Like I listen to that. Like I listen to Al Jazeera and like I listen to the Thinking Muslim just to like know what the other side is thinking. And something that's very useful about like when you have like a serious propaganda source is it when they do a damage control article, it lets you know and like put things into the category of okay, I feel very confident now that this is happening. Like Al Jazeera, total Hamas propagandist. They did like, a damage control piece after like Hamas like banned women from being allowed to like ride motorcycles and made like a law about like women having to wear hijab in like municipal buildings. They did a propaganda piece about how like, well, what's really oppressing Palestinian women is like Israel, and but like they acknowledge that stuff. So that's how I know like okay, that's definitely happening in Gaza because like Al Jazeera is even acknowledging it.
Yeah, and it's not really hard for these opinionated, biased news agencies to grab something that has like a shred of truth and to completely twist it and make it something that is completely untrue. Like that article you just mentioned, like, okay, there's something going on in Gaza, and that is the shred of truth. And then somehow the title is dogs. It's like, what? Really? Is that what's going on right there? Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. Noah, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, Samantha, I'm sorry, I got to disagree with you on that. I believe that there should be impartial news agencies like what we had in the, I want to say like the 70s, the 80s, and the early 90s, like with Fox, CBS, ABC, how it was supposed to be with like the Neutrality Act. I know in Britain they're supposedly supposed to follow neutrality, but I think if you keep having biased news articles, you're only listening to one side. You need to listen. I get why you need to listen to multiple sides. I get that, but also at the same time, if you listen to only one side of the story, and you listen to only biased stories, it's you have the danger of having yourself fall into that thinking that. And I hate saying this, Samantha, because you were in a cult, but it almost like that. So forgive me for saying that. So that's what makes me hesitant to think like this. Like the sources I like to watch are News Nation, BBC, and ever since the war started, Iran International. I wish I could read what Manitou posts, but also like Reuters is fairly good. But those are my mostly.
Yeah. I mean, Samantha's point was that you should listen to the opposition so that you understand what they're thinking, so you don't fall into, just like a echo chamber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the fact that President Trump was saying he postponed the strikes because of the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. What do you guys think? What part are they playing
I mean,
in this?
I think it's the thing is like I agree that the UAE wants the regime gone, but like I think it's possible that they could be scared of like physically being in the like I think the royal family could be physically scared of physically being in the UAE while the regime is getting like taken care of because they know that they're going to get a bunch of missiles thrown at them. I think it's highly possible that they wanted it to be delayed for a day so that like they could get out of Dodge. So, I do think it's possible that like that could actually be true that they did ask him to delay it for a day because, not because they don't want the regime going, but they just want a day to like get out of the danger zone before.
Yeah, interesting. Did anyone else have an opinion?
Yeah, that's a good point. But the one thing I said during Armin's show was I think they did this to make sure that because I know the US has been flying in a bunch of equipment and stuff. So I think they're just getting, I think the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they all asked for this delay so that they could get their defenses ready. I think if they didn't, they want to feel like they're 100% ready to take on any missiles, any drones that they possibly can. And also, here's the other thing, and the one thing we haven't talked much about this on this channel is the fact that they are getting help from Ukraine because of the expertise that Ukraine has gotten during the war with Russia and how they're able to take down their drones, which are the same drones that Iran uses because they supplied them. So if they're able to, because it's a lot cheaper to, what Ukraine is doing to take down their drones. So I bet you that's what they're doing right now is they're making sure they get all their stuff ready, including maybe the expertise or the defense stuff from Ukraine, the United States, all of that, just so they can say, okay, we're ready, let's strike. So, yeah.
Yeah, if they are doing that, they had a long time to prepare and get ready. It would be really, really lazy and incompetent of them if they needed like this last, I don't know, maybe 48 hours, couple of days. They weren't prepared. But I want you guys to consider this. The fact that President Trump said what he said meant that everything's done. The plans, the decisions, everything's done. It's all set. Unless the regime comes in last second and literally offers up the uranium and everything that the United States and Israel want, which they will not do, that is it. We're going to go back to strikes. So it's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Things have been finalized. Pedro, did you want to respond?
Yes, I wanna respond. So what I wanna respond is that when it comes to President Trump's strategy on the Iran's war, I think Trump clearly knows what he's doing because, unlike other presidents like Mr. Obama, where by signing a deal with the Iranian regime on the nuclear deal, gave them millions of dollars. Instead, Trump has a strategy of unconditional surrender with no money to give them back. That means that Trump will not repeat the Obama mistake of giving them millions of dollars. Instead, they will get no money in case the deal is agreed. But if the deal is not agreed, then Trump is done with the regime and they will bomb them. They will bomb them until they are the and people have the chance to reclaim their country.
Yeah, not only are they not getting money, they are losing money. In fact, they're losing upwards of $500 million a day from just the blockade, more from the internet. And that's been hurting them the most. Actually, it hurts them more than the bombs. So, yeah, I think Noah wanted to say something. Oh, yeah. Oh, you meant one. Okay. Did anyone else see someone in the chat, in the YouTube chat said, Michael Fellman said, I see it differently. The Persian Gulf allies don't want to be seen to side with Israel against a Muslim nation. What do you guys think about that?
I disagree. They've already, I mean, a whole bunch of them either have secret alliances with Israel or have already publicly sided with Israel. So I think I would 100% disagree with that logic.
I think it depends on what the reaction was when they publicly thanked Israel for helping with Iron Dome. I think if the average UAE citizen had a bad reaction, then it's possible that maybe they could be kind of retreating and not wanting to pull back from wanting to look like they're siding with Israel. But if the reaction wasn't that bad, then I would agree that they're probably not trying to do that.
Yeah, when the news came out that Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the UAE, then the UAE promptly came out and denied it. So it does seem like they're not too keen on having a good relationship maybe publicly with Israel, but undoubtedly behind the scenes, there's definitely some stuff going on.
I mean, there's a joke in Israel that Israel's essentially the mistress of the Middle East, where all those countries want to have secret defense and security deals with Israel, but want to not have it public.
Julie, what do you think?
I just want to say, I mean, I don't get into too much speculation about, given it's a war, what Trump says. I think he's got political and strategic reasons for saying the things he does, and we're all just playing guessing games. But with respect to countries like the UAE, and that, although the UAE has come out publicly very much and very supportive of Israel on a number of occasions, these are all regimes where there is a disparity between what the heads of the regimes want or see for their future and their future stability, and what many of the people inside the countries feel about the situation with Israel and other Islamic countries. And so all of these leaders are, I mean, it's very obvious with the Saudis, but they're treading a very fine line between maintaining their tribal controls of these countries and also maintaining the loyalty of their own people. And I think that can have a bearing as well on how they appear to position themselves.
Yeah. So Barak Ravid, who's been pretty good generally at reporting during this conflict, said today that Trump spoke on the phone with the leaders of Saudi, Qatar, and UAE the day before he announced what he said today about postponing them. And he said that there was a unified message from these three countries. So, which was, give negotiations a chance, because if you hit Iran, we will all pay the price for it. Which is quite strange hearing that from me, because they have been hit for it quite extensively. Saudi and the UAE more than Qatar, of course, but I don't, maybe they're fearing some sort of particular attacks on their desalinization, because these countries get 90% of their drinking water from that. Also, you guys have to consider, we were talking about this, if the Islamic Republic dumps radioactive material into the Persian Gulf, it's game over. Millions of people in the Persian Gulf are going to have to leave. That's it. It's done. So that's why it's important to essentially drive the regime to the brink of destruction, wait, gather your strength, and then have a final fast executing blow so that they're not capable of scorched earth, essentially. But yeah, we can move on from that topic. We can always just come back to that. But I think it was Noah that had a new question, and then Pedro.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to what we were talking about, the uranium, because this reminded me of a political satire from Poland Ball, and I'll put the link in the chat, because as you know, some of you may know, when I tried to play a video, the audio did not work on School, so I'll send it to you, and then Ali can play it. But basically, this is why I don't like oh yeah, we'll make a deal, but then Iran could do this other thing when you guys watch it. So
I mean, I just watched it, but I don't think that's never gonna that's not true though.
you don't think it's true? You don't think they'll go behind and get, you know, go to Russia and say, I'll give you this amount of money for the uranium and then get that? So
No, that wouldn't be possible because the whole premise, the humiliation that the extraction of the uranium is going to do, and the point of it is that the United States and Israel send in ground troops to go to the nuclear facilities, check all of them out, make sure there's no highly enriched uranium, and then take whatever is there out. And the regime supporters are going to be like, we just endured decades of sanctions and announcements and speeches of we're going to be a nuclear power and we're going to dominate the world, and we suffered for what? For you guys to just fold as soon as there's what, 3 months of a conflict? And that would be disastrous for the regime. So they would never give up the uranium, in my personal opinion. They would never do it. They might, maybe, in some world, agree to like not enrich it for a period of time, but in that case, President Trump would never accept that because remember, he's been crapping on Obama a ton, and Obama did that exactly. So much less the United States giving the Islamic Republic money to get the uranium out. Like that would just, don't worry, that would never happen.
Okay. Well, that's fair. That's fair. That was my main worry.
Yeah, this just goes back to the main points. It's why the conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. Yeah. No matter what anyone says, you can be in a room full of 20 people and they can all tell you, Noah, you're so dumb for thinking that the war is going to pick up again. And eventually, after some time of hearing that, you're going to start believing it. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess people say it. So no one's made a deal. We've been negotiating for like 4 months. There wasn't a single breakthrough, not a single one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And also you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I tell everyone who kind of gets discouraged, especially today, is that nothing's actually changed. People can say what they want all the time, and this is not the first or last time that President Trump is going to say something that makes us feel down or up.
And by the way, we all know they can't make it a deal because it'll be the end of the regime. So yeah.
Yeah, Pedro, what did you want to say?
Yeah, what I want to say is that have you ever met Goldie Gamari personally? Goldie. Goldie is a famous politician. We all know her. She's very known across Iranian American communities. Goldie Gamari.
Yeah, she's Iranian Canadian, but no, I've never met her in person. I don't think Armin's met her in person either. And that's.
But did you spoke to her? Have you ever spoken to her?
Why are you asking?
This is because Goldie speaks to Armin very frequently, and that's why I'm just asking that to check if you have spoken to her on the Zoom along with Armin.
Because she's famous. I mean,
Yes.
I'm just gonna keep like everything that happens on the back end a secret. It's
Okay.
probably just better that way. But if you're wondering if, like, I'm assuming that you're asking that because you want me to go on their show.
No.
Okay.
It's just out of curiosity because Armin always speaks on school Zooms. Like we see him every 3 days. And at least we see him. But Goldie she only speaks on her YouTube channel. Do you know that?
Yeah, I do. Everyone knows Goldie Gamari. Yeah, she's very famous. She has been doing a lot for us. So I think everyone knows her, everyone likes her, everyone appreciates and respects her. So yeah.
And Morad Basie, don't forget him. I think he's probably the most famous Iranian journalist in the world, the most followed among Iranian journalists. Morad Basie.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He does speak only in Farsi though, guys. So if you do tune into his stream, there might be subtitles. I don't know. I've never tried watching it with subtitles. But hopefully they work. He does give some really good points. So whenever some big event happens, like today, it's worth kind of listening into him. But if you're not a native Farsi speaker, it'll be pretty difficult to understand everything that he's saying. But yeah, good point, Petra. Thank you.
Yes.
Jilly, did you want to respond?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was more to do with what Noah was saying before about Trump and reading Trump. And I think one of the things that I feel about politicians generally, and that people make a lot of mistakes about, is they pay a lot of attention to what politicians say rather than what politicians actually do. And I think the key, I mean, I see it all the time. People project, they say, oh, Trump intends to do this or he intends to do that. And then when he doesn't, they say, well, he's unreliable, because they've read into it a situation. The reality is, what counts, in my opinion, is what any politician from any side of political side actually does. And what I'm seeing now is a continuing buildup of military assets in the Middle East, and that tells me that Trump is not walking away from this. That's how I would read that.
People in Israel are stating that every single night they're just hearing constant sounds of jets. And the airspace in the Middle East is clear, which means that people do think the strikes are about to start. The Persian Gulf Arab countries, some of them have been building like defenses around their oil refineries and other such important buildings. They build like these net scaffolding structures to stop drones from hitting them. Every sign, including the one that you just said, where there's just more equipment, more troops getting in there, which has now exceeded twice the firepower that we had at the start, which was February 28th. We now have over twice that. So you're right. It's the best argument. Just tell people, hey, look at what's actually happening and don't be so swayed by what people are saying. Some people who we know, may like to confuse people. They may say a lot of things so that if they say another thing, it sounds normal. And you're absolutely right. I always say that. Sherry.
Hi, Ellie.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. On that point with two comments. Trump does love, when it comes to foreign affairs, he loves to keep us guessing. He just really enjoys that. Drives us crazy, but he loves to keep us guessing. Also, I think he learned a lot when it was about a month ago, I think, where he had there was an announcement of some sort that he was going to attack a certain facility, and then the regime surrounded it with women and children. So sometimes your rhetoric or the things you say, you're testing them.
Yeah,
So I don't know what he has up his sleeve, but I know he's serious.
Yeah, someone actually in the group discussion chat said that they confused me for 2C TV. Well, I don't know if we look alike, but speaking of 2C TV, he always says his famous phrase, take Trump seriously, but not literally. And what I personally think is that President Trump has people within his own administration that are not entirely on board with him. And if he confuses everyone, including, us, people in his own cabinet and his administration, then there's no way anyone else would be able to figure out what he's trying to do, which gives him freedom to do whatever he wants to do. He can postpone the strikes whenever he wants. He can also strike whenever he wants. He never said, I will strike. He never said, I won't strike. He gives these, statements that are very gray and in between. And yeah, I mean, the proof of that is actually that they fired a few generals. I always like to say a couple of weeks ago because time's been flying by, but I think at this point it's been like over a month and a half. So people in his administration are not entirely on board. Some of them who joined his campaign thinking, okay, he's going to, have a pretty cool, quiet presidency, whatever. I'll join, I'll build up some prestige for myself so that the next president comes along and I'll have a higher position, are now like, whoa. January started, boom, Maduro, Iran. We're having these talks with China, like the Russian-Ukraine war is taking a turn, like everything's changing. What's going on? And undoubtedly, a lot of these people probably not completely loyal to him anymore. We do know who is loyal to him: Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent, even JD is not he's like 90%, not like 100%. So he has a lot of political navigation that he has to do. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it wasn't. It's been my gripe with American politics.
And his first administration was, compared to this administration, he was like milquetoast. And so I understand what you're saying. You're making the point that they thought, oh, okay, he's going to be back in office. It's going to be the same thing. Oh, nay. He learned a lot losing that election and watching things go on. And, he learned a lot about even people that he thought were Republicans. He knew there were never Trumpers, but he learned a lot. That's a really, really great point.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's definitely learned from his mistakes. He can't trust everyone, especially from the amount of lawsuits and impeachments that they tried to do to him using people in his administration before. Yeah. We have a new member, Yashar, who wants to talk about arming the Iranians and how it could work. So Yashar, go for it.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey guys. So sorry, I'm from Australia. So usually the timing doesn't work out for me to be here. I usually just watch live on YouTube. So here's the thing about arming the Iranian people. We just hear people just talk about Kurds and Kurdish and all of that. But what I'm thinking is that if you wanna pretty much free Strait of Hormuz, or a bit more specifically Bandar Abbas, you need somewhere around there, because usually when I think about how IRGC would respond is that the worst of the worst, which to me is that nearly any kind of missile or drone that they're gonna have, I assume that they're gonna hit that area with those missiles. So that this is what my perception is about the IRGC. So what I'm thinking is that instead of doing bringing the weapons from for example Kurdistan, or smuggling them in, we can use it in, for example, Sistan and Baluchistan, because I had some experience. I've been to Baluchistan a couple of times. The Baluchi people, first of all, they are armed fairly enough. They know enough to use weapon. So many of the assassination that we saw, for example, the last one that I saw is that police car is passing by and 4 people jump out of the car and they shoot him. If you look at their clothing, they are Baluchi. So they're doing this for a while. In the past protests in Iran, every single one of them, except the Line and Sun revolution, if you look at it, every single time, the first place in the whole country that was the internet was shutting down and they were using the live ammunition was Baluchistan, mostly Zahedan area. And another thing is that, first of all, they are Baluchi, so they are minorities, but also they are Sunni Muslim. They are religion minorities as well, and they've been under a lot of oppression, definitely way more than the rest of the country. And one of the big things over there is that the thing that they do as if like making money is that they smuggle oil and like goods and items out of the country, like through border to Pakistan. So they already know like the routes for smuggling stuff in and out. And another point that I thought about is that because like the Sistan Baluchistan province is like the water ocean border of it is with the Oman Sea. Currently, the U.S. blockade is a little bit out, but it's in the Oman Sea, like it's on the edge of it. So you can have access to like a water border as well as like through Pakistan, through smugglers. You can just bring the weapon in. And if you want to, for example, open up a Strait of Hormuz, the location was Sistan, Baluchistan. Literally, it has a land border with Hormuzgan province, which is like you can literally take people over there. You can train them because it's way bigger than like Kurdistan and that area. And I think this potentially could work more than like arming the Kurd people, especially now that the Kurds are in spotlight and everyone just looking to that part of the country to like something happen. They think there's something gonna happen from there. And one of the things that IRGC definitely is scared more than another uprising is an armed uprising. I think that as soon as this happened, they're gonna bring as much like as much like army personnel or any sort of thing to just shut this down, because this is the one thing that could really just bring them down. So I think like this potentially could happen, and also because they are Sunni Shia, I think it was Molavi Abdul Hamid is their cleric. A while back, he critiqued the IRGC as well, and on that area there are more basically more, how do you say, more religious people that they are not so they like this person, for example, Molavi Abdul Hamid, he is the kind of person that can affect how they act. So, and he's already announced that he is against the way that the government is and this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that could potentially work easier and could get access to like U.S. Navy to get closer to the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, so with I'll address some points first.
Okay.
So if you want the U.S. Navy to get control of the Strait of Hormuz, that's the hardest part. And then, and then just so it doesn't echo, do you mind if you mute your mic? So if they want to get into the Strait of Hormuz, the problem with that and why they haven't done that already is because it would take a few hundred, maybe 1,000 drones and missiles all aimed at these US carriers and ships for them to get hit. And that would be the worst scenario. And that is why that they're doing the blockade off of the, like further out and not actually in the Persian Gulf. It achieves the same effect. It's way safer. But even if you were to go and take the physical Strait of Hormuz, the regime can still launch missiles and drones from like 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers further in, and they can still hit ships like that. So that's the hardest. It's so hard. It's so hard to get control of the Strait of Hormuz in a military way. Not that it's impossible. The United States military can obviously do it, but it's just very difficult for them to do it, and they will take some sort of loss. For the arming of the people, you're right. And the Pentagon is doing what you are talking about. They definitely didn't just choose the Kurds. They chose all the groups that they could possibly use and trust. So Baluch, Kurd, whatever, right? They used them all. It just happened that the Kurds failed, and it became public that they failed. And if they didn't use other groups, they would have used different ways, different avenues to get weapons into Iran. And they don't want everyone armed because that's just impossible. Like someone's going to leak the information, something's going to get out. Now you're in a mess. You also have to train these people with these firearms. You don't want them to shoot other people. There's a whole slew of problems, but you're thinking about it on the right way for sure. Yeah. Did you want to say something to that?
Oh, sorry, me? I didn't.
Yeah, basically the Pentagon
Oh,
used different ways to get weapons in there. And you know, we actually have an expert, Jeffrey here. So if you did want to respond to that, go for it. And if not, then Jeffrey's gonna talk about it too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you that this is something that was definitely think about, but this is something that, like, in the, what do you call it, like, in the discussion groups, it was never, like, talked about. The only way pretty much that everyone think about smuggling the weapon in is that, like, either the airdrop or you will give them again to the court or like something on that line. What I was thinking is that especially if we're thinking about like actually training the people, you need some space for it as well. Like, you need to be disgraced, no one should know and all of that, but also you need the space. Like in the province, like geologically, if you look at like the Kurdistan area, it's a fairly small like province, and also it's definitely being monitored right now. It's in the spotlight. But like the way, like my own experience with the Baluchi people is that they are armed, they know how to shoot people, they use it because not necessarily because they're against the government, but
Yeah.
because they're doing a lot of smuggling.
Yeah, I see
They
what you
know
mean.
how to use weapon and this sort of stuff. So that would be a bit more suitable in my eye.
Yeah, you should actually listen to what Jeffrey has to say about this.
So, okay, the idea of arming anti-mullah Iranian resistance. There's all kinds of issues. So the idea that you're going to use a regional like area, it's almost like you're trying to do the anti-mullah version of what we did with Contras, training them in a country that was bordering Nicaragua. Here's the problem with that. So, like the Baloch, I'm going to mispronounce it because I don't speak that language. There's like the existing reality on the ground. This is not a theory. You have the Jaish, that's like a radical Islamic terrorist organization that is very much in the region. So you have that. It's not an ungoverned space. I doubt Pakistan would even allow it. And, like the Pakistani Balochistan is already plagued by its own separatist insurgencies. So you have the BLA and all this other stuff. It would invite mullah retaliatory capability. It would threaten China-Pakistan economic corridor, so the Chi-Coms are going to jump all over that shit. Logistics and concealment, like concealing your just like logistics in that area is pretty much a fantasy. Like the terrain is moat and desert and mountain. That said, modern surveillance like drones, satellites, local informants makes secret large-scale training, at least in that area, pretty hard. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on your parade. I'm just giving you an accurate, like my best assessment, right? The blowback is almost assuredly guaranteed. So they'll have there's issues regarding it might end up empowering jihadist-linked elements. Like Jaish had organization operational ties with Al Qaeda. So you're not like the broader point you brought up is very much right on the money. So the idea of training anti-mullah forces outside of Iran, they need a space to train. You can't just disperse weapons in. It is better to actually train, like have a training regimen, what I call kinetic track 2 material support, or kinetic lines of effort, kinetic track 2 material support and or lines of effort outside of Iran, and then disperse them in mass. So, it's generally you're right. Like broader, very much accurate. Like train them outside of Iran, train them up. It's going to take between 8 months and like between 8 months, so like or 55 weeks, a little bit more, if you want to have very effective counterinsurgency and or anti-death squad kind of forces that would be able to then, in a very clandestine manner, swoop and swarm through Iran actively seeking out besiege and IRGC execution elements and killing them before they kill Iranian people. Like, you're right about the fact you can't, we may end up having to just disperse weapons everywhere, and that's like a last ditch effort. That's like, like an oh shit response to like just we're like equaling the playing field for everybody. The Mullah regime is dispersed AK-47s and RPGs. Essentially, the Mullah regime remnants are trying to do what Saddam did right before the conventional phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom, when Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist regime let all the crazies out of prisons and created Betadine Saddam terror troop centers of gravity and all this other shit. Like, I get where you're coming from, and we are definitely pursuing lines of effort on how to effectively arm the Iranian resistance, which has to be done. It has to be done a very specific way. You're right about, like, it's better to train them and equip them outside and then send them in. I just don't know if Baluchistan is, and forgive me if I mispronounce that. Ali, if I mispronounce, I need your help, buddy. Is the best spot to do that.
No, you're saying it right. So then basically, yeah, so you're saying it's too difficult. Like, you're on the right path. It's just too difficult. It's too much resistance with that idea. So then what would you suggest, Jeffrey, if we didn't have like 8 to 12 months? What if we just had a month?
A month?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Would it probably just be
let's
closer
we have
to?
I'm just sighing because it's a really shit sandwich there.
Yeah.
If you have a month and you're like just trying to give people the very, 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 very bare minimum of like, okay, this is your weapon system. This part is the dangerous end. This is how you flick it from like safe to fire, and this is how you load it. Hopefully, not shooting off your foot, right? Like, it's like even the Contras had between 6 and 8 weeks of training, and that was like checkered, right? Like, there's things you can draw from Contras. I'll be sending you something on that I sent some other people here. Okay, so training, what you would lose in quality via the 8 months to 55 weeks to have the 20,000 highly trained operatives that would then go through and do all the things I talked about, you would have to make up for that lack of quality with quantity or mass. And with that increase in quantity or mass, you are also going to eat a shitload more of attrition, which means a lot more people are going to die. And we may end up being forced to, clearly the regime remnants is trying to set it up to force that hand. Like, oh, if they're going to fall, they're going to burn Iran to the ground and just turn Iran into like, a shittier, fucked up version of, say, the sectarian violence that was involved in Syria. To counter that in the month, if that's the time constraint, then the best option we have would be mass deployment of fully autonomous weaponized drone swarms and boxes in the main urban areas of Iran, and just blanket that shit and have the drones go throughout the buildings, hunting down besieging IRGC as decisively as possible, while the Artesh, Immortal Guard, and other anti-Mullah remnants were pulling general security on the street to stop the besieging IRGC assholes from like driving down the street in pink-painted technicals like Durka Barbie with the Shuka machine guns. That would be your best bet. We actually talked about that in the after show yesterday, and I was like trying to do some back of the envelope number crunching. Actually, who was it that helped me? Somebody had helped me. Forgive me if the name escapes me. They were very helpful with that, and we used like, okay, this is how many of those we assess we would need to like very much end the war in Gaza in like 6 weeks, right? Remember we talked about like Legion X and Elbit and all of that. So like I was like, give me the top 11 cities where you had the most like genocide committed. and then give me the geographic regions vis-a-vis, compare them to how big Gaza is. And that gives you like how many Gaza level drone packages you would have to have. And it, I mean, it's quite a bit. I don't know if we've produced that level. We're already ramping up and we have the machines to do it, to be sure, like the replicator program and all these other stuff. Me and a lot of other guys have been pushing for it. Here's the challenge. It's not that the technology's not there, it's there. It's not that the machines to build them aren't there, they're there. It's ensuring unadulterated supply chains regarding your raw inputs, like Chinese Communist Party chips that have onboard hardwired malignant code that allows them to track or disable shit. That's one of the issues we're having. So that would be your best bet, would be a tech fix approach towards solving that problem. If you only had a month, I mean, even if you were going to go like bare minimum Contra level training, that's like minimum 6 weeks. And even then that's, you know, like, I mean, the Contra program was successful in a lot of ways. It had some problems. It has a checkered past. You know, I hope you understand the question, like the gravity of the question you're asking me, man. Like, yeah. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer. The reason why I'm not as articulate as I should be is because that answer is really fucking soul crushing.
That's a better answer than anyone here could give. So thank you very much. Guys, Jeffrey is our expert, and he has a lot of life experience to add on to that. So we appreciate him a ton, or at least I very much do. Yeah, so Yashar, your answer is, at the worst case scenario, you just throw weapons into cities. Yes, some of the regime supporters are going to get them, but there's more Iranian people and they will also get them. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is that we have a full year to train up people like me and you who live abroad outside of Iran for a year in like the United States and Canada with full-on military, like Green Berets, Rangers, go through all of that training, then get sent to Iran and continue on with the, these death squads, essentially. We are somewhere in between that, most likely. Sorry?
Outline that, or I can give a basic overview of that, what that would look like.
Yeah, Yashar, do you want to know what that best case scenario looks like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would happy to learn.
Yeah.
So the best case scenario, at least as I and a couple others can see it, is that we've identified there's a certain amount of people with, like, Americans and Canadians of Iranian descent, and within them, the ones that work pay 100 hours a week every week, and in 22 weeks you're able to build 12 fighting facilities that would be able to sustain non and lesser kinetic lines of effort, which directly support the kinetic lines of effort I'm going to get into indefinitely. So each fighting facility has like based on domes, right, that have a particular focus. So you, in the non-kinetic line of effort, it does things like pre-bunking, debunking, like Mullah remnant propaganda. They do things like lawfare and filing lawsuits and all that stuff. You have 14 desks manned by 3-man teams. You have 3-man teams for each one of those desks, so you have it 24 hours a day. The lesser kinetic lines of effort. So to train those people to do that, you're talking about 2 years, right? Or hopefully you find people who are trained as paralegals and or in journalism, right? Those are the two for the non-kinetic lines of effort. For lesser kinetic lines of effort, you're talking about training people in doing things like link analysis, competitive open source intelligence gathering, image measurement-based intelligence, weaponized transparency, sometimes otherwise known as targeting, vetting for the people who are applying to do the kinetic lines of effort stuff. Training is about same format. So 14 desks, right? One desk deals with the country that their home country they're in. Second desk, or the other 13 desks deal with the 13. I mean, it's not provinces. It's like, what do you call the ones that are above province, like our states? You got like 13 of them, right? You have 32 provinces above that. It's like broken into like 13 regions. I don't, you know,
District, maybe.
yeah, there you go. The district. So like each one of those is servicing a specific district, right? So you're talking about 400 to 800 hours of training. After that, they're in the top 2 percentile of non-state-based civilian intelligence analysts in the world. So they'll be very capable of what they're doing. So 10 40-hour weeks or 20 40-hour weeks, you can bump up the training per like time per day to like 10 12 hours. That's like about as much as you're going to get. Not going to be pleasant, very much going to hurt your brain. So like when that's all done, then you identify 20,000 American and Canadian of Iranian descent that are between 18 and 35 that are male, that don't have any family, so they're not married, they don't have kids. And the reason for that is that minimizes operational security issues and or potential points of leverage that the Mullah regime remnants would hold hostage or at risk. And you would end up training them to be very highly trained and like counterinsurgent and anti-death squad. So what's the training look like? First 10 weeks is like basic training that you'd see in the United States Army. AIT, or advanced individualized training for infantrymen, is another 12 weeks, so you're at 22 weeks. RASP, or Ranger Assessment Program, is kind of like 8 weeks. Then you have 61 days for Ranger School. So that's like 9 weeks. Let's see, we're at 22 plus 8 is 30, 39 weeks. Then you have like an abridged version. You could do one of two approaches. You could do an abridged version of 3 different other MOSs. One is civil affairs, the other one is human intelligence collection, and the other one is small quadcopter drone. I think the MOS designator is 15X. And so that would allow you then to not only be very effective, so you're like, there's another 12 weeks. Then you add another month to do some of the contemporized version of what we taught Contra, specifically psychological operations in guerrilla tactics, which means things like political warfare, enhanced interrogation, targeted killings, all kinds of stuff that you would do to sit there and go after besiege and IRGC local leadership. After that, you'd have 20,000 people very trained and be organized within 156 to 158 companies, broken down to 8-man hunter-killer teams. And when dispersed throughout Iran, they would go through Iran in a covert manner, actively seeking out and killing besiege and IRGC executionary elements like sharks amongst prey. When they're done eliminating them, so assessed easily at the low end, they'll probably take out about 20 combatants for every 1 operative. High end's 100, so you're talking about between, this is just like preliminary assessments, right? 400,000 to 2 million IRGC besieged douchebags getting put under the dirt. When that's done, the steel fist, at least as it exists right now, particularly if it's done after and or coterminously with a mass strike that the current Trump's administration is seeking to do or getting ready, is set to do, which is they're going to eliminate all the stuff in the Strait of Hormuz, all the conventional military that's left of the IRGC, so no tanks, APCs, rotary aircraft, towed and or self-propelled artillery of both tubed and or rocket type. All of the Mullah regime remnants leadership is dead. All the IRGC and besieged leadership down to the lieutenant has been killed. Every headquarters from the national, like, what do you call them, district, provincial, and indeed city, maybe even some of the neighborhood HQs have been obliterated. All the stuff in the Strait of Hormuz is dead. So every missile launcher, every fast attack boat, every douchebag Durkin, a fucking inflatable duck, a scuba, like a terrorist scuba man trying to fuck the sucker fish underneath the ocean, they're all taken out within 5 days. So when that happens, you have that executionary element that's still there because the Mullah regime sat there and adopted something called Mosaic defensive doctrine, which is they've dispersed and kind of like created independent commands to try and insulate the ability of a decapitative strike from fully eliminating the regime. Although said decapitative strike will definitely kill the regime dead. It'll be like a headless chicken. So that's why you need those 20,000 highly trained people to do what they need to do. After that, if all goes well, then you're talking about like the steel fist that the IRGC regime remnants and the has been shattered. They're done. The veterans of those that did that then become the core cadre to develop neo Savaks so that Iranians don't ever have to worry about having to be put in that kind of position ever again. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, as far as like equipment to equip each company of lawful unconventional fighters, you're talking about a little over $1 million. Weight and size wise, it's about 37 pallets that fits on 2 C-130s and or 1 C-17 and about 48,000 pounds. If you're going to airdrop it, which there's positives and negatives to that, I mean, you're talking about easily a landing zone that's about 2 kilometers square. So there's an issue there. It's better to train them and have them carry their stuff, or at least as much of it as you can, on their back as they're dispersed in mass into Iran. And I don't mean like, wow, we're doing like a D-Day, like conventional landing. These aren't conventional forces. These are people that operate in a clandestine manner to actively hunt out, kill, besiege IRGC death squads before they can continue to slaughter Iranian women and children. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of kind of like what's envisioned.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yashar, I'll summarize it for you. That's the best case scenario. We have highly trained specialists that are able to not only destroy the IRGC, but also pave the way for the future. And the way that they'll do that basically was what Jeffrey was talking about. You train them outside. Once they're trained, you send them inside, and these guys will just obliterate the IRGC. And you slowly take back the country city by city. If we don't have that much time, we're going to fall in between the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, which is right now, the Pentagon did use multiple avenues to arm people, and they did the best they could. And we're going to see everything happen at the same time. So Jeffrey was saying they're going to spend 5 days and just get everything in the IRGC, boom, gone. Everyone who didn't leave, you're a target, you're going down. And this time, the strikes are going to be they're not going to take a month and a half. It's going to be 1 week, and they're going to be like 4 times as intense. You do that, same time the people come out with weapons, same time there's drones in the air helping them, you have your highest chance of success, which would mean Prince Reza Pahlavi and Mossad also activate their assets. Everything has to happen at the same exact time. We don't want people to die needlessly. You only want casualties if you're a commander, if you know it's absolutely necessary. There is no other way to go around it. So thank you so much, Jeffrey. Yashard, sorry to make you wait so long.
Oh no, it was all. So that's like pretty much. I'm very thankful from Jeffrey to like teach me this, and that's obviously very good information. But the thing is, like, my assumption based on this was that we are in a very limited time. So what I was thinking is that, okay, if we are like very limited on time, if this gonna happen during like this war, is that you pretty much you pick the people who already know how to use the gun, and this like little bit of like training was that Ukrainian forces with the drone thing. And another thing is that because based on this air cold gas leaks that's happening, is that okay? These are obviously most likely they are Iranian Mossad agents that they are using the drone. So this kind of like training already, to some extent, already happened in Iran. So there definitely like some ways to do it. And this again, these are my assumption based on if you want to do it right now, is that pick a group of people that they already know how to use weapons, and then you just train them. Pretty much the same thing that happened to Bashar Assad, like in Syria. So this was my assumption for what do you call it, for this specific, for pretty much right now. And I thought that okay, if this gonna happen now, this could be like a more plausible thing because sorry, I just woke up pretty much like half an hour ago. My brain isn't processing it. But yeah, that pretty much that's about it.
Yeah, Jeffrey, go ahead.
So I get the point you're making is to find people who already have at least a basic level of understanding of how to employ small arms or small unit tactics. It's not without its merit. So the issue is, how do you vet the person that did it? And even if they are fully on board, the kind of, I mean, if it's between that and just dropping weapons everywhere, that's a better option ish. The issue is, there's a reason that I set up, like me and the others, well, me and others developed the training requirements that we did. It's not enough just to know, okay, I'm a basic infantryman. It's like the Artesh, right? I have a lot of, like, the ones that are not in league or, aligned with the Mullah regime. They were like people that the Shah set up. Like, I have some respect for them. 2/3 of them are conscripts that had like 8 weeks of training. Not even. So those are regular conventional forces. The IRGC and Mullah regime remnants is trying to set up the environment so that a post-conventional, post-regime environment is akin to what occurred in Iraq, which is, he said, Saddam said, can't win the conventional thing, they're going to stomp. And we did. We stomped his ass, kicked his ass up between his shoulder blades. It was unreal. Like, so he told his Republican Guard and all the other crazies, like I talked about the Fedayeen Saddam terror troops, take off your uniform, put your shit under your bed, and just wage this guerrilla campaign against, like, the post-conventional reconstruction effort. So even if everything goes like the way without, like, even if everything aside from training people up occurs, they still have to train those 20,000. That still has to happen. Right? That still has to happen.
Yeah. And it'll happen either when Iran's free or before that, preferably,
right,
well, before that, but we can always have the ideal scenario. But I wish that would happen. Sherry, did you want to respond to this? Is Sherry here?
Sorry, did you say me or Sherry?
I said Sherry, but you go for it.
Okay. Oh no, it's perfectly fine. But because the only thing, like the only reason that I'm bringing the Baluchi up is that I spent a part of my mandatory military service over there, and like this, of course, the vetting process is definitely a big part of this whole thing. But the way that over there usually works between the people who are armed is that it's more like a tribal frame, if I may say so. And pretty much almost every single tribe, they lost people to IRGC. So it's more high likely for that to happen. But I get the point that, like, if this kind of thing happened, it's most likely gonna end up in chaos. So that's completely fair point.
Yeah, true. Also, someone asked, "Isn't Balochistan the area where they're trying to arm the regime supporters?" They're actually trying to arm regime supporters everywhere that they can. But the propaganda that they were showing on national TV made it seem like there were so many of them and they're doing it everywhere. It's not true. But it seems like that. So it's not just Balochistan. And actually, the Balochistan clip was very funny because the woman in that video claiming that she was going to shoot Trump brought her own, like, family rifle. It wasn't even state issued, but yeah. We have a question from Michael. Michael, if you're still here. Okay, we can come back to Michael. Halda, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, sorry about that. I had my microphone off. First off, I had posted 2 videos. I wasn't sure if you saw those or not, that I thought were kind of interesting. I posted them at the beginning of the chat. But for Jeffrey, I did have a question about what he was just talking about. I had walked away and you had said something was soul crushing. And I was curious if you were talking about the length of time. And I also wondered if the fact that the jailed Ford is no longer in the area, it's now back in Norfolk, if you think that that plays a factor at all in what's going on right now with
The
Trump.
soul crushing was if we had to just mass disperse weapons all throughout Iran to equal the playing field.
Right.
Only because I know the Mullah remnants are that the reason they're dispersing weapons to, the few Iranians, I mean, they're not nothing. The very, like the slim minority of Iran, well, I don't want to call them Iranians. Let's say the slim minority of people that are aligned with the regime. They're like giving them AK-47s and RPGs, all the rest of it, because they're trying to turn a post-conventional, post-Mullah regime Iran into like Syria.
Right.
That's the threat. And so, yes, if the approach, if it is required, if it leaves us no other choice than to mass deploy like just weapons all throughout Iran, just like airdrop cases of fucking weaponry, right? And say, well, everybody's going to have a machine gun, so we've leveled the playing field in small arms way. That's true. If we only had like a month to train anti-Mullah forces, the lack in quality has to be made up in quantity, and that mass will also translate into a higher level of attrition, meaning that the bill that will have to be paid will be greater than it would be if it was just like 20,000 highly trained operatives going and hunting down, killing the siege and IRGC executioner element, right? The peons. That's after a mass bombing campaign that will take out almost all of the regime remnants. It had nothing to do with the aircraft carrier going back here. A lot of the strike capability it's not just aircraft carriers anymore. Like our heavy aircraft can bring a lot more pain to the fight than any aircraft carrier.
I guess where I'm a little bit confused is, everyone seems to think that we are going to start striking in a few days. Frankly, I'm kind of, I don't know where I weigh in on this. I mean, I know what I would hope to see, but, after all these weeks of promises and, constant, asks for negotiations and deals and this and that, I'm starting to lose a little bit of, faith of hope. But what I'm curious about is if we did strike, you make it sound like it could be like another 2-3 years before we could actually free the Iranians. And I would bet that if we were really striking that heavily, I would think that they would start to come out. Not right away. I mean, not the first day, but I'm saying when they actually see, the ramifications of the destruction. I would think that they would start to come out.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if the administration, and it looks like they're leaning towards the maximalist approach, as was envisioned, or me and others maximalists have sent up the chain, you're talking about 36,000 targets getting serviced in 5 days. That means the regime as a regime is dead. Every tank, every APC, every helicopter, every fucking towed and self-propelled artillery, right? So all their conventional military is obliterated. All the stuff in the Strait of Hormuz, every fast attack boat, missiles and radar, that's all destroyed. All the regime remnants is dead. And the IRG and besieged leadership will be hunted down and killed almost down to the lieutenant level, which is like...
As they should be. Yeah.
So absolutely, they're absolute fucking ruthless, heartless, godless fuckers, every one of them. So that being said, that doesn't mean that the 400,000 to 2 million crazies that were like the executioner element are going to disappear. Some of them will probably defect, some of them will flee, some of them will almost assuredly be set up, and it very much seems like the Mullah regime is trying to set it up to fight a long-term guerrilla or insurgency-like terrorist campaign in a post-Mullah Iran. I'm not saying that Iran won't be liberated. What I'm saying is it would take 2 years. No, not 2 years. It would take from the beginning of training, probably like 18 months when you start training, and then you're done, and then you send them in, till all of those residual elements would be cleaned out of Iran, and Iranians wouldn't have to worry about having kind of consistent post-Mullah terror campaigns going on inside Iran.
I see what you're saying. So basically what you're saying is that if we decide to strike, it could be, you know, a few weeks before we see, you know, the true destruction. Then they would come out and there would be just a massive constant hunting down of all the vermin.
So like Hilda, if we strike and they do the maximalist approach, it won't be a couple of weeks, it'll be 5 days and they're dead.
Well, what's the point? I mean, I guess where I get frustrated, you know, as an
Yeah.
American citizen, and of course, having somebody in Iran, I'm so frustrated with hearing okay, you know, another week, another day, another 3 days, another 5 days. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's been what, almost 6 weeks now? I mean, what is the point, you know, of the continual, you know, pushing back? That's what I don't quite understand. You know what I mean?
What is the point of what?
You know, constantly pushing it back, you know, week after week after week. I mean, is Trump just playing games? Is he trying to build up, you know, munitions? Is he trying to build up forces? Is he trying to maneuver? Is he trying to, you know what I mean? I mean,
and what's the reason behind all the attempt at not the delay, well, the pause in the kinetic strikes? That's probably a combination of a couple of things, not the least of which is we're restocking our munitions, which, I mean, General Keane talked about this literally about 3 hours ago.
mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, now we're, you know, it took us a while to we used a lot of munitions, a lot of long range critical strike munitions. And like, it's not just the Mullah regime we're dealing with Putin's criminalized counterintelligence states belligerency in the intermarium. We're dealing with the Chinese Communist Party's belligerency towards fucking Taiwan. We're dealing with the Mullah regime remnants, and they're all coordinating their efforts. And so the environment's fluid and ever changing. We have to modify things on the fly. And so, you know, as that occurs, we're like, okay, we can't use all of our long range strike munitions because we have to save some for Taiwan and some for Europe and all these other places. That doesn't mean we're not going to hit them. It just means we have to change out what munitions we're using. Right. So there's that. In other words, instead of using long-range cruise missiles or Tomahawks fired from subs, albeit they have some there that they'll probably still use, it's more like we're going to use munitions on top of target, which is GPS-guided JDAMs. That's 500-pound general-purpose bombs that have kits put on them so that they're extremely accurate, and they do the damage of, say, a long-range strike munition for a lot less cost and a lot less impact on our strategic munitions because we have hundreds of thousands of GPS guided kits and, you know, easily hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of general purpose bombs that we can just rain on top of friggin' like Mullah regime douchebags like fucking Santa Claus. Right. So, I mean, it took a minute to sit there and change that. You had to deal with things like certain elements of the Western European states of NATO fucking us and giving us all kinds of shit, whether it was Spain, to a lesser degree, France and, you know, Great Britain, and to a lesser degree, Germany. I mean, like, I'm not saying Central and Eastern European countries, they had our back. So like Poland, Ukraine, even Ukraine, it's not part of NATO, had our back. And that's one of the people that is actively assisting Gulf states and our forces and training up other people, right, to keep it nameless. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying certain elements there, like the Western European NATO's member states of NATO, not the people that live in their country, just some of the political elite class definitely fucked us. Like, there's no doubt about it. Spain fucked us. You know, that didn't stop us from striking. It undermined the intensity of our heavy aircraft in the first strikes, which meant, you know, it gave time for the Mullah regime to adapt. So there's that. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons. It's not because Donald's abandoning Iranians. I mean, think about what he said today. He made it very clear. The strikes are planned to the mass strikes were planned for tomorrow morning because certain states said, please hold off, give it one last chance. He said, okay, great. he told CENTCOM and Pete Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs, maintain the ability to strike at a moment's notice and continue to build your strike capability as we're doing so. If the Mullah regime does not come to the table, he will give the go-ahead. The strikes will be massive. They're not going to be what you've seen before. It will probably dwarf what you're seeing now. As what General Keane said, he said, you know, you're talking about 30% of the targets left and the regime is done. The regime itself. So, like, it's like this. How do I put this historically? You know, people are going to go, oh, it's like Iraq. First off, there's like non-interventionist misinterpretation of Iraq is all fucked up. I'm saying think of it like Saddam Hussein is dead, right? Ba'ath regime is gone. Then we'll have to do a surge to make sure that whatever regime remnants, the execution element doesn't do to Iranians what they did to Iraqis. That's probably part and parcel of the reason why they're doing the calculations they're doing. It has nothing to do with throwing Iranians under the bus. I mean, President Trump's done more for Iranians in like a couple of months than all like the past 7 presidents combined. Obama gave Mullah regime $1.6 billion in cash and pallets. President Trump gave the Mullah regime easily on the low end $25 billion of warheads on foreheads. And nothing like. It's not like he's like nobody's trying to throw the Iranian people under the bus. Quite the opposite. I know that doesn't make it any easier, right? It's like, yeah, Iranians are suffering. I mean, like if I had a wand that I could magic it away, I would do so.
Me too. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. Someone in the chat, by the way, we really appreciate you saying this. But guys, Jeffrey always takes the time to explain why something's happened. And it may be a lot of information for some people to absorb, especially if you're just looking for a quick answer. But then if you actually listen all the way through, you realize I am now like 100 times more knowledgeable about the realities of every situation. And it's gold. It's gold. It's worth more than what you can't buy this information online. So thank you, Jeffrey.
I'll say this. One, I know that Iranians are hurting. They're wondering, was it worth it that people came out? The answer is unequivocally yes. What that protest did is wipe away all the fucking lies and propaganda the Mullah regime that's illegally occupied Iran since '79 has perpetrated on the world. It showed in no uncertain detail, Ali, that the Mullah regime that occupies Iran is not the Iranian people. And the Iranian people will never be alone again. As far as it's very sweet what you said about me. I try to do the best that I can in my own very imperfect way. The real people, though, the real heroes are like my buddies that the mullahs killed in Iraq. The real heroes are the kids that gave up their lives to buy the time and to realize, to get us to the position we're at. And I only do what I do to be, in my only very imperfect way, to be worthy of those people. So it's not one way, kid.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey.
I appreciate you, Jeffrey. Thank you.
We all do.
I'm not picking on you when I ask you questions.
You can pick on me all you want. My wife will be very happy.
All right. Well, now you open the door. Okay.
Someone in the YouTube chat had a question, and they asked what is the state of concern that if the IRGC realizes it's over, they just do if we can't have it, no one can. Yeah, they can. That's it's something I've been thinking about since the beginning. And there's a lot of different ways that they can do it so that they permanently cause damage. Which is why right now we make them think that they have no idea, right? They think in the regime supporters think Trump's backed off. He's gotten cold feet. He's scared and he's backed off, which is the complete opposite of the truth, okay? If the regime thinks that they're going to stay alive and they're gearing for this long-term war, drag it out as much as possible, then they're not going to come and just dump nuclear material into the Persian Gulf or water supplies or poison food. So you get them to a point where they're sufficiently weakened, like right now, they're starved of money. And then you just execute them. You do a powerful executing blow and finish them off. Everything you got all at the same time, that's it. Then they have no organized ability to permanently damage the landscape or the environment or the people. But there will be unorganized resistance, and that'll probably continue for years. So we're going to have to deal with that, which is why Jeffrey was saying we do have to train those 20,000 people regardless. And their job is to basically take care of Iran in the future in any way. I see that Michael's back. Michael, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah,
Go
I
for
wanted
it.
to ask. First of all, thank you everyone, hi Ali, for inviting me here. Have you guys heard anything about the San Diego Islamic Center shooting? I know Tusi was broadcasting it.
Yes, we did, but no more than what the news is reporting, which is basically there was the two gunmen, and it seems like they, from what we know so far, I didn't check the news over the last like 2 hours on that, but last I heard there was 5 casualties, like 5 people dead from that, and some people are wondering if that's the same Islamic Center where 2 people who committed 9/11 were also attending back in the day. Which is, I mean, I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's all we
Because I
know.
live in San Diego, and it came out that it was a 17 and an 18-year-old. One was like Hispanic male, and then another one was like an American person, I think it seems. But they haven't touched too deep into it as the motives as to why. Like I totally like, if it was a plot from like the IRGC, because it's a Sunni mosque and they're not Shia, but I don't want to make any assumptions. But my condolences goes out to those people. As someone who is like a fellow Christian, I don't I don't wish like things like that would happen to other people regardless of their denominations.
Yeah. Someone said
May I respond to that?
Yeah, 1 second. Someone said 1 security guard and 2 staff died, as did the 2 shooters who shot themselves. Other victims are in critical care. All right, thank you, 26. Yeah, go ahead, Sherry.
Is Michael still here? Yes. Michael, thank you so much for
Yeah, I'm
saying
here.
that. I appreciate that so much. I am a
Yeah.
Christian also, and I'm not wishing people in a worship building being gunned down
Yeah.
or any of that violence. And if they're Christians, people who claim to be Christians, who were the ones who carried out that attack, I will certainly, I'm already condemning it, even if they are, but I'll do the same even if they are Christians. I'm not defending that kind of behavior, and I appreciate you saying that. And I think that's exactly what separates not just Christians, but most people from your hardcore Islamists. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And also I'm gonna put the article here. It gives the name of the 2 suspects that were killed. So that way, in case you guys, in case Ali wants to take a slight look at it.
All right, thank you.
Like someone
Also, I had one
shooting
last
up, like,
question, Ollie.
it's bad.
All right, Samantha, 1 second. Let Michael say it and then go for it.
Sorry, Samantha. Ali, so, I saw the state propaganda TV from the IRGC of like this TV like news anchor guy shooting around with an AK-47 inside the studio. Is that just propaganda, or would you actually believe that the the common citizen would support the IRGC.
The common citizen definitely not. So keep in mind, in a country of 90 million Iranians, there's probably 5 million that support the regime. The other 85 don't. And so the common citizen just statistically will not pick up an AK and start shooting into crowds of people, much less like the humanity of that. But some of these regime supporters, which is why they're handing out these weapons in mosques, is that they're very fanatical and they're very extremist. So some of them might actually do it, and a lot of them will be armed, but I don't think it will be enough of a force to really like tip the scales. It's basically a last-ditch effort. But the extremists will. The regular citizen, no. Samantha, you want to say something?
Yeah, just that it's like really sad. Like, you know, anytime like someone shoots up just like a building with like school children and like, you know, just someone wanting to hurt little kids, it's like always sad.
Yeah, innocence. Someone asked if we covered the Truth Social post that Donald Trump reposted. So Mark Levin posted about the War Powers Act, and Donald Trump posted that on his Truth Social. So I'm thinking we go over that tomorrow. I'm sure Armin and Goldie will go over that first thing in the morning, which you guys should definitely tune into. But I was thinking we wrap it up in the next few minutes. I'm going to summarize it for you guys, though, in case you're wondering, because it's a lot of text. Basically, Mark Levin is making the... Oh, Goldie covered it. Okay, cool. Well, in case you guys didn't tune into that, the general gist is that they're making the case for how this War Powers Act is not really a thing. It's not going to affect them, and it's not going to get in the way of what needs to be done. So that's the TLDR. But yeah, that was a great discussion today, guys, by the way. Thank you. Oh yeah, Sophie, our in-house legal counsel, a constitutional law person is a better word, says correct. So we're good, guys. We're totally fine. Which is funny because Congress and Senate voted like 7 times to limit the war powers. So I guess even if they do approve it, I mean, the president has what, veto powers, and then it's not going to work anyway. So, yep. And thank God, thank. But yeah, guys, I was thinking we wrap it up unless someone had something to say.
Thanks for creating this space for us to have this discussion, Ali.
Yeah, thanks for showing
Thank you
up.
very much.
I know it's very late for you.
Thank you, Ali.
Yeah,
I left the link in the chat, Ali.
Cool.
About it. It gives the name of the shooters. Yeah.
All right, I'll take a look after.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, guys. Also, crazy journey. I started YouTube May 1st, and now I have 750 subs. And yeah, I have like 39 people tuning in right now. 36 actually. So that's cool. And please remember to subscribe. And I really appreciate you guys for showing up. Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead.
Likewise. Thank you. May everyone stay safe and God bless everyone. Hopefully nothing like that